good people. So I just finished a session with a student, which I have a feeling that's what I'm gonna have to start doing as a teacher. It is what it is. Sometimes the kids are intimidated about asking questions in class, and you want to make sure they're getting the information. But I came on because I made a post yesterday about the second novel that I have completed and that I will submit for publication, which is called Luke Brown. The first novel is Reverse, which is based on a preteen love story, loosely based on my childhood, where you have best friend Monica and best friend Donovan, and Donovan confesses his feelings to Monica, and she's like, no, I don't think we should do that. And then because he ends up liking someone else. Monica then realizes, I do like him. And then her daddy's like, no. So it's called Reverse because they go back and forth on how they feel about each other. Not really going back and forth, but as far as their actions and how they feel about each other. So I just want to share a little bit of my story when it comes to writing. This is not the first novel I've written. My first novel I wrote was actually in seventh grade. I'll admit it was a little raunchy. My best friend's stepmother found it and gave it to my mom. And then I wrote a second novel. I'll admit it wasn't as raunchy as the first one, but it was adult-ish. Like, in the first chapter, the main character finds her husband sleeping with this woman, and she just recently had a baby for her husband, and I'm going to recreate that story. I am going to recreate that one. But yeah, I don't remember the title of it. I just remember it was in a purple folder, and Mr. Scobie, whatever his name was at Alice Drive Middle School, found it, and he gave it to Mr. Hutchison, who was my seventh grade assistant principal. And Mr. Hutchison realized, and I think it was Hutchison or Hutchinson, I never got in trouble. So he said, I'm going to have you meet with the guidance counselor. I don't remember the guidance counselor's name. I just remember sitting there like, how did you get this job after sitting with him? But they said, long as you don't get in trouble, we won't send it to your mom, which I wanted my story back. And then I wrote a third novel, I want to say in high school, around ninth, 8th grade. I remember the main character's name was Deshelle. She was a reform gang member and met this guy who was like her best friend, and they fell in love and had kids. It was a cute story. I don't think I'll rewrite that one because I don't think I really knew what I was talking about. But it was a good story. So when it came to writing, I honestly was afraid. I never thought of publishing. Even despite as much as I wrote in high school and middle school, I never thought of publishing and having my work out there on being on shelves. I don't know why. And I don't know if it was because of a lack of representation. I don't know. But I remember taking a writing course in Winthrop, and because I would wait till the last minute to write stuff, I got a lot of criticism. So as a result, I just completely shut that down. And then one day, this is years ago, maybe 2000, my writing mentor at the time, Miss Jeanette Gregory, came to me and said, I think you should get published. And I was focused on spoken word. I was focused on poetry, and I was scared of the idea of publishing. And when I look back at it, at how much she offered to publish me, that was nothing. Okay. But I never thought about writing fiction and nonfiction. And after having that meeting with her and doing an open mic, God said, I called you to write. Okay. And he started listing all the things I'm supposed to write. So let's be real. The stories, the fiction, the nonfiction, the newspaper articles, I was part of the newspaper staff in high school. I was part of the yearbook staff, and we would write stories from the yearbook. But I didn't know I would take it to that level. I do remember being a mass comm major and wanting to take over Essence or have my own magazine, but I ended up, shifting into the English classroom and teaching, and I just left it at the wayside. I still wrote, still wanted to eventually publish, and it wasn't until I went to a class reunion. It was our 10-year class reunion for Sumter High. And even though I didn't graduate with them, I grew up with them. And some of the young ladies who I went to school with at Sumter High and Alice Drive Middle School read my stories, and they remembered them. And they said, Ryan, whatever happened to those stories? Like, they were good. They were awesome. And it occurred to me, despite the fact I didn't do well as I wanted to in my writing class in college, I realized that I purposely dropped fiction because I felt like I couldn't do it, not realizing he was giving you criticism. That's what he's supposed to do as a professor, to help you improve. So what I ended up doing is just when thoughts would come to me, I would write them down. I would have these dreams. I'll never forget when a student presented her novel project, and she said, the author of Twilight, that series, her book came from a dream. So I thought, okay, so that's what I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna start journaling all the dreams that I had. So I will wake up from these crazy dreams, sometimes crazy, sometimes very realistic, but I would jot them down in what was a BlackBerry then. And then I started just in my phone whenever I would hear a thought, or something would come to mind. And one day, how Boomerang, which is the first novel that I finished, it's not the first book, but it's the first novel that is going to be published. When I first came up with Boomerang, it was first called Boomerang, and then I changed it reverse. Boomerang was initially a story that basically they were best friends all this time. They met up later on in life, and basically she decided she wanted to be with him and spend the rest of her life with him, and she realized she loved him. So I didn't want to start the story from them. I wanted to start the story from when they first met to when the romance blossomed, which is in middle school. And that's where Boomerang came from. And then because the show Boomerang on BET was on, I decided, you know what, I don't think I want to call my story Boomerang anymore. So I'm going to call it Reverse. So that's the first novel that I finished. The first two books that that are on their way to publication, they just got to get formatted and all that good stuff. Those are all poetry anthologies that will be coming to you, if not by the end of the year, the beginning of 2021. The second book that I wanted to tell you about, the second novel, is called Luke Brown. That is my heart. I don't know why I stuck with it as long as I did, but that's my story. That out of all of the ones I've written so far, that is definitely my favorite one. One thing I would tell you is that I would get in the habit of, I would come up with all these story ideas. Like, I would just think one day, come up with a story idea, or I had a dream and I would jot it down, but I wouldn't develop it. Okay, I'll admit Reverse was the first one that I stuck with. I went on and off, and finally I stuck with it and I finished it. Then I figured with Luke Brown, let me go ahead and finish this also. And that's what I'm going to start doing, is just finishing my work, not just getting ideas and starting it. I need to finish it. So that way, when it's time for publication, when it's time for editing, all these manuscripts are ready to go, which is beautiful. There's other things I want to do with my writing, but let me tell you more about Luke Brown. So Luke Brown, in the first chapter, you have the main character, Ava Grayson. She's at this party, and I'll admit this story is also loosely based on my college experience, but she was at a club and in Columbia. Even though she went to a school out of town, she was at a club in Columbia partying with her friends, and she has all her mindset on this guy named Nate. Matter of fact, his nickname is Nasty Nate, and what she wants to do is she wants to be with Nate. She liked Nate in high school, but Nate had a girlfriend in high school, and now Nate is single, and he's eyeing Ava. Nobody likes Nate. Nate is known as being a dog, and Ava has a history of dating dudes just because they offer something, whether it's status, whether it's popularity. She didn't date dumb dudes, but the dudes she dated, maybe they were a top prospect in high school for basketball or football. They had to have some type of status. Nate now is a junior at the school in Columbia, and he's in a fraternity, and he's fine. So why not? He's eyeing me. I'm checking him. Why not him? And everybody's like, nah, because he is known for being a dog. But she refuses to believe it. Well, ironically, while she's at this club, there's this guy. This reggae song comes on. She's all caught up in the groove. And then the guy comes up to her. And they immediately lock eyes. They dance. He's not vulgar with her, because you know how we used to dance back in the day when a reggae song came on. Some of you still do. And he never once turns her around to like be up on her. He's face to face with her and they're making eye contact, and of course they're dancing and swaying to the music and whatnot. And for a moment, she doesn't even know who Nate is. She's all about Luke. And the reason why it's called Luke Brown, because Luke has these eyes, these brown, what I call chocolate drops, that just captivate your soul. And she gets caught up in Luke, enjoying herself with Luke on the dance floor. They're dancing for I don't know how long, she didn't even realize. And so her homegirl tapped on the shoulders like, it's time for us to go. They were going to the after party where Nate was going to be. Luke asked her for her phone number, and she's like, ugh. She gives him a phone number, but it's a fake phone number. Yeah. So, her girls are thinking, oh, you could have hooked up with so-and-so. But she's like, nah, I'm all about Nate. And then Nate, admits, he loves her. He wants to be with her. And basically asks to be her boyfriend or whatever. And, of course, her friends are like, you needed to be mindful. You're a freshman. He's a junior. He's experienced. Just watch yourself with him. She's determined, this is my man. I'm going to stick through it. But at the same time, ever since she met Luke, she has not gotten Luke off her mind. Luke is forever on her mind. So it's called Luke Brown because despite her wanting Nate, Luke always ends up appearing somehow, some way into her life. So as you're reading it, you're wondering whether or not she's going to continue to pursue this romance she's been wanting with Nate since high school, maybe since her freshman year in high school. Or is she going to tap into her feelings that she knows she feels for Luke, but she doesn't want to feel them for Luke because she's supposed to be in love with Nate? When this book launches, especially when I get with my illustrator on the cover, y'all, like I don't, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be dope. But all I want you to do is make sure you stay tuned. Stay tuned. Because more is definitely coming from Ryan Nichelle Jenkins. The author is.